Fuck
All
that
right.
movie.
That's all right. We can talk about Prometheus now.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
Uh, what was the black goo?
The Black Goo was you know what? I don't even think Ridley Scott knows. I don't even think John Spates knows. I know for
Or
fucking sure Damon Lindelof doesn't know.
no, Damon Lindelof knows. He just
What?
doesn't want to. He just doesn't want to tell anyone.
Are you serious?
I, I, I don't know. I don't know anymore. The thing is, we'll get into it, but I don't think it matters if there are answers to any of these questions. But we'll get into it.
We'll get into it right now. Hey, welcome back to the Waffle Press Podcast.
Hey,
I am your host, Diego Crespo. With me, I have Matt Garingo.
fuck yeah!
We're doing it. We're wrapping up our Alien Quintology
Mhm.
retrospective. Fuck yeah.
Until 3 weeks from now, when Alien Covenant comes out and disappoints.
I have heard good things from people who did not like Prometheus. So I am
I
keeping my fingers crossed.
I I will be shocked. I will be shocked if it is good.
Well, here you are. Let's talk about Ridley Scott really quick then for a little bit, because you have you're not a big Ridley Scott fan, right?
I'm not. I mean, here's the thing. He has incredible visuals in his movies, like epic visuals. He's still doing epic filmmaking, which is something a lot of directors just don't do anymore. Somehow he gets the money to do that. Uh, Usually, the quality of his films comes down to the script and how much he himself understands the scripts. Because I mean, he's made a lot of movies I like. I just think that sometimes he doesn't understand his own movie.
I totally believe that. What did you think of The Counselor and The Martian?
I like them both enough. The Counselor is just one of those kind of like, this is a fucking mess, but hey, it's enjoyable. Uh, there was enough in The Counselor that I'm like, I will never see that in another movie. That made me go like, I can give it a pass on some of the things, but that doesn't excuse some of it is just stupid. But whatever, it's a fine film.
Oh, okay. I fucking love both of those. I never
Uh,
watched White Egypt. I just have no
yeah,
interest.
I saw that and I was like, it was weird because I was like, how is The Prince of Egypt a better movie than this? The animated film from like '99.
uh, and then Prometheus, obviously, is your favorite in the Alien franchise.
Absolutely not. But let's get into it.
So this is the prequel, not prequel, but totally finally revealed to be a prequel to the Alien
Yeah. All right.
series.
First of all, back the fuck up. What the fuck was the deal with the marketing for this movie? Like, why were they so like, it's an Alien prequel, and then they're like, it's not an Alien prequel, and then it's like, could they not make up? I get the feeling that they honestly couldn't make up their minds.
No, I think that was the case. They had no idea which route it was going to go.
Mm,
And Ridley Scott keeps getting to make movies even when they bomb financially or critically.
mm,
He plays really well with the studios. He talks about it in the THR roundtable where he's like, I think Danny Boyle like not confronts him, but like asks him like, you know, like I had trouble making one movie in space, and this guy's going back and doing it like 3 fucking times.
mm,
And Ridley Scott just says like, yeah, well, you know, like it's just like making any other movie. You just stay on time, on budget, work well with studios, and that's why he's always able to do director's cuts too, because
mm.
they just like working with him. He's a good workman
Yeah,
apparently.
that
And
that makes a lot of sense.
and I get the feeling that no one knew which route Prometheus was going to take, even though Ridley Scott was just like kind of go with the flow
Mm,
showman for this movie.
mm.
Um, and I think that's why the ending is like it's only a good final scene for like if you're an Alien fanboy,
Yeah.
not for the actual movie that precedes it.
Hmm. And
Uh,
also, have you like seen like the deleted scenes for
yeah,
Prometheus? Like some of those scenes are scenes that are in the movie, but they're like completely different.
the I think the
Like,
big one is the borderline xenomorph. attack on the ship,
Yeah.
which is in the movie, but yeah, different, really different.
Which is weird considering that the final decision was for the movie to be an Alien prequel. That they cut this thing that looks, it's baffling, honestly. That, and I think it's just a sign that how little of this movie really makes sense if you even dig like an inch below the surface of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like this was that honestly when I saw it, because I was hyped. Like this was one of those like I got really excited for, and I went to see it in theaters, and it was one of those like where you get to a certain point, and you're like, oh no,
Yeah.
this isn't doing it for me. And like I walked out, and I kind of had this thought. I'm like, you know, Ridley Scott does a lot of director's cuts. Maybe the director's cut will come out, and that'll like clear everything up, and then I'll think it's genius. And then this is like the one Ridley Scott film that in like 20 years it doesn't have a director's cut. Like I was so baffled. Um, and the DVDs were even marketed. Remember when the DVD came out and it was like questions will be answered?
Yeah.
Like I think that's another hint at just how little anyone knew what was going on in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a shame because fuck is this a good looking movie.
It's fucking incredible. I missed this in theaters, and
It
I
was
was really excited for it.
yeah.
Theaters for whatever reason. And it's just gorgeous. I what did I watch it? No, I think I borrowed the Blu-ray, and it is fucking unbelievable. It looks
Yeah.
incredible.
And it's just like any scene when there's not an actor on screen, it's like really arresting. Or when an actor doesn't have any dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And like just like the scene with David in the room that has like the map of the universe or whatever. Like that's just an amazing scene. Or just the arresting image which they used on the poster, just because I think they knew how good it was, of just the giant head in the room full of the little canisters. I mean, that's a great image, and it's like opens up a lot of interesting questions about what the fuck is this movie going to be. The problem is when you start going, well, what is that? What's it all about? It all starts to fall apart.
Oh man. Well, let's start from the top. So David is the best thing about this movie, like bar none, right? I mean, besides the visuals.
No, Charlize Theron is the best thing in this movie.
Okay, I'll accept that.
I I have issues with David as a character. I never really got David, honestly.
No, I don't get him, but I think he's the most compelling part of it. Charlize Theron's character, I don't even remember the character's name. I think she's the most fully formed. I think David's interesting.
I don't remember anyone's name or Shaw, and I think Charlize Theron. I just watched the movie, and I'm struggling to remember names. I think her name was like Vickers. At least that's just what they keep saying. I think I could be completely wrong. It could be another character, but she was the only one I found really interesting. And I think it's mostly just because Charlize Theron's an amazing actress that she can really make like shit interesting. Just a very boring character interesting. Whereas I don't know, David just wasn't. I didn't find anything that interesting about David other than there's this like trying to unpack this movie is always frustrating because there's like this interesting thing about like meeting your creator, and David is the creation of someone else's creation essentially, and that's kind of interesting. But other than that, and I guess no, there's not much. I don't get it. There's not much to David. I don't think David's that deep of a character. I think like every other android, including fucking what's her face, Winona Ryder Winona Ryder is a more interesting like android than David.
I think that's like the alien hot take.
I guess maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just missing something, but I don't know. There was nothing about David. David just did weird things, and you're like, why do you do that? And then the movie goes, who knows? And you're like, fuck you.
Um, okay, so you know how like everyone's an idiot in this movie?
Yeah,
Yeah. And like I've heard some defenses like, oh, they're scientists, they're like prodding around, like you don't poke a fucking alien with a stick, you
yeah.
know?
No, no.
Like, there's lines you don't cross for believability.
None of these people act like scientists.
Yeah.
No, no one acts like any of their jobs. The security guy doesn't act like his job. The captain of the ship doesn't act like he's the captain. It's very bizarre,
Um,
but here's one thing. I will just before we get into it too much. You could totally make a movie about idiot scientists and make it work. I mean, you could make this movie could have been a brilliant film about what happens when corporations fund scientific endeavors instead of just, scientists, like free of, corporate influence. Because all these characters are very like naive, especially the main character about what they're going to find.
mhm.
And you could have totally played that up as like they totally underestimate what they're getting involved in, which has happened a lot in the history of exploration. Like if you read about like the first people going to the Arctic and like just how a lot of those journeys just completely fell apart and like hundreds died. And you read about all the shit they just fucked up, they just didn't even think about. Like there's one expedition, I don't remember which one, where they didn't package any of their food right, so all the food got lead poisoning.
Oh.
So the crew slowly started losing their minds as they journeyed into the Arctic, and just they all died. And like you could have totally done something like that with this movie, but instead these characters are kind of just idiots just because the plot needs them to be. Um, but let's wind things back
All right.
another moment.
Well, two
Um,
things about the idiocy thing. I
okay.
don't buy the that defense that, oh, they're just scientists and they're prodding around because
Mm.
it's ridiculous. But I think that David was doing that. I feel that at least that's what I get from the presentation of Prometheus. That David is just like experimenting with the crew,
Mm.
and I think that's more believable than a bunch of supposedly renowned scientists acting like jackasses.
Um,
Um,
I, I kind of agree with that because he is the guy. I mean, when he goes into the chamber, he's like actually collecting samples
yeah,
and doing things that a scientist would do. But when it comes to later things, he does things that really don't make sense when you think about it. Like that he's not really testing any variables. He's just kind of like just doing stuff. And I think if he was experimenting, he would have handled things differently. But that's just me.
well, the end of this
Um,
movie kind of falls apart. Like, I mean,
um,
yeah, no,
yeah.
that's what I mean. I also want to say that I like your point about the explorations to Antarctica, because
Mm.
this is clearly at the Mountains of Madness in space.
Oh yeah, and let's just take a moment to say that fucking Guillermo del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness got canceled because of this movie.
Yeah.
And this movie ain't worth that movie.
No, no, it is
It's
not.
I can't just the knowing that makes me that's unfair to this film. I'll be the first to admit, but it's a very upsetting thing to know. Um, but all right, so winding things back, there's that opening with the albino dude.
Oh, what is that?
um, it's
What is that?
it's gorgeous, but then you're like, what the fuck? Like, it's just you're like, all right, I guess that's where we're starting this thing.
Yeah, I guess it's supposed to be about I don't know. Is this movie like dealing with ideas found in like Scientology?
Well, I mean, it's basically just dealing with a lot of ancient alien shit. I mean, there's all, if you watch any of those shows where they're like hieroglyphics have people worshiping the stars instead of just doing the logical thing, which is they're worshiping the stars. They must be worshiping flying saucers. Um, I think it's literally just it just takes the ancient alien thing and says, I mean, there's a book. Have you ever heard of the book Chariots of the Gods?
Yeah,
Like,
it's
you know, which
that.
basically says that like aliens had all sorts of influences on like pyramid builders all around the globe. Um, yeah, there's just that's basically it. And this movie kind of takes that, but doesn't get into the whole pyramid things. They decided to leave that for
Alien
Alien
versus
versus
Predator.
Predator. Um, and instead, there's like there's some hieroglyphics and cave paintings, um, which I don't. It gets to this weird thing because I really don't know where the line should be drawn of like what questions should I be asking with this movie.
Hmm.
Because you go, hey, there's these hieroglyphics and they're pointing to it's all these people around the world worshiping these giant figures, and then it has the same formation of stars in the sky, right?
Yeah.
So were these aliens like periodically coming and being like, hey, our weapons testing facilities on this planet? All right, bye. Like, were they doing that? Or like where did these what are these hieroglyphics and messages?
A mistake.
But are like is it wrong for me to ask that question? Like, does it
No.
not really matter? I'm very
Um, I don't think the movie knows what questions to leave ambiguous and which ones to answer. And then at the end of the film, it just doesn't matter because it's so much of a mess. Like I think you and I agree on this that, or no, I know we agree on this. Movies can be ambiguous when they're dealing with big ideas. You know, you don't need everything
yeah.
answered, but when the movie is unsure of what it should answer and what it shouldn't answer, like what do you think the point is of Prometheus? What is the thesis of Prometheus?
All right, this is going to be fucking impossible. Because there's so like here. All right, here's one thing I want to say. I was trying to take notes on this movie to answer that very question, and like it literally resulted in me like every minute like writing down a new thing. I would have to keep pausing the movie and write like a new thing every like couple of seconds because there's like all these weird like very pointed lines in this movie about gods and your meet your maker and like oh it's Christmas and but then at some point I'm like it doesn't matter because the movie's not very good. Like at the end of the day, like I really don't care what any of the like what the ideas are because I don't like watching the fucking movie. But if I could near a guess, and this is based on just like these thoughts aren't very formed, but to me when I first saw it, I thought part of what was going on was the idea of what if you met God and God ended up being evil. Like that was just one like and I think there's multiple ideas, but that was the one I kind of latched on to. Was like what if you meet your creator and your creator like hates you?
Which I
And
is fucking horrifying.
yeah, that's a very scary and fucking badass idea
Yeah.
and could have made a great movie. And that's what I kind of thought for a little bit until I found a interview with Ridley Scott, who I guess decided to give a bunch of interviews about Prometheus to ruin the movie even more. Because in one of his interviews, he says that Jesus Christ was one of the albino aliens.
Oh fuck.
So fuck any ideas going on in this movie. Like, that is so unbelievably stupid. And it ruins any other ideas I can think of to know he said that.
Well, like,
Like,
because it's not so much that that idea is there.
mm,
I think it's that what the fuck does that have to do with the movie that we watched? You know?
yeah, and where is that in this film, other than they keep mentioning Christmas? Like, am I supposed to extrapolate from that? Being like, oh, it's Christmas. Clearly, one of these albino dudes was Jesus. Fuck, I can't believe I didn't pick up on that. Like, fucking what?
Ooh, excuse me.
You all right?
Yeah, I sneezed because I'm allergic to bullshit.
Yeah, oh, God.
Thank you, thank you.
Ugh.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's like when people bend over backwards for like what they call misunderstood masterpieces.
Yeah, like
Everyone's got
Batman v
their opinion.
Superman, let's
I
say.
try not to bring up the name. I try not to bring up the name. Like everyone's got their own opinion and whatnots, but I still talk about things that aren't even like in the movie to like
Mm.
support their claims and ideas. And like that's fine. But if it's not in the movie, like it
And
doesn't it doesn't
it might be a
matter.
problem if the movie doesn't fucking explain itself.
Yeah.
Unless it's like some weird art project where it's like you have to watch the movie and then also read a book and then also like do something. Like if it was like an experimental thing, like that's about the only time I'm okay with that excuse.
Hmm.
But if your movie doesn't explain what's going on, and it doesn't matter what deep ideas are going on in your movie if your movie just sucks and is uninteresting. So,
Well, that's the thing. I'm never bored watching Prometheus like I am with Alien Resurrection.
um, I could agree with that. But Prometheus just makes me wish I could just like read a book that just like explained everything. It doesn't make me want to keep watching the movie. It's like I wish I had a
Uh,
book of like just not written by Ridley Scott. They just kind of came up with like an interesting theory about what's going on in this film. Um,
like written by John Spates.
yeah, maybe. I mean, didn't he write
Oh, because
Passengers?
Passengers is like another Alien Resurrection, and that it's directed wrong.
Yeah, I'm also in the party of thinking that I think Passengers probably had a really good script and they just fucked it up.
Yeah,
Um,
that would have made a
so,
great little psychological thriller, but that's a
oh
whole other
yeah,
thing. Um,
but
no, but this is a Lindelof was brought on after Spates, right? I know they
yeah,
get a
yeah.
co-writing credit, but they were not together.
Well, because Spates' script was called, and I think you can get the script out there somewhere, but I didn't fucking bother. I wasn't gonna go all Alien 3 on this one and like do tons of research. Um, uh, his script was called Alien. It was called Alien, the Engineers.
Yeah, I have that
Uh,
script.
okay, have you read it?
No, I
Okay,
just have it. I was gonna
that's
try to read it before this, but I didn't.
that's fine. Um, and and this is also this idea is something Ridley Scott has been talking about for like years. Like he's wanted to go back and look at like where the alien came from for like years. So he's wanted to do this, and this is what we fucking got.
Woo!
Um, we ended up on a planet that wasn't even LV 426 or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it's still so weird to circle it back around to that again. Like
Mm.
it turned out to be an Alien prequel, but they did everything in their power to not make it directly an Alien prequel.
Yeah, and the thing that frustrates me about that is that it's called like LV 223 or something like that, right?
Yeah,
But
that
then
makes
the
no fucking
alien,
sense.
yeah, the alien ship that crashes in this crashes exactly like the ship is on LV 426. Like it's the exact same image. It's like honestly, I feel like they changed that in post. I honestly feel like the original script said LV 426, and then they were looking at it and they realized, hey, how come in Aliens no one found this underground facility on this planet? Like, how come no one else noticed any of this shit?
Hmm.
And they're like, fuck it, it's another planet. Like,
Yeah, it doesn't. Uh, it's so frustrating. Like this one, way
mm,
more frustrating than any of the other Alien sequels because
mm.
this one has so much potential, like
Yeah,
right there to be a great science fiction movie and a great horror
and
movie.
personally, this was the last chance of this franchise, in my opinion, to do something different. This was the last chance to like kick open the doors and be like the Alien franchise can go in like all sorts of weird, different directions, and they fucked it up. So now we're getting a Alien movie again.
Um, well, let's talk about the cast.
They act.
Yes,
Idris
that.
Elba has an accent that comes and goes.
I'm picking up life forms. I love that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ugh.
yeah, no, that's. I got nothing.
Who's the Chinese
I,
actor that's in this? I can't remember his name.
No,
He's in The Martian. He was in Doctor Strange. He's really good. I like him and
yeah,
shit.
he's great.
Uh,
Benedict Wong.
yeah, Benedict Wong. He has nothing to do in this film, and it annoys me.
No, yeah, he's so good, and all these people have like nothing to do except for Rapace,
Noomi Rapace, I believe. Yeah,
and Charlize Theron and Michael Fassbender.
yeah. Everyone
And
else is just cannon fodder.
yeah, I want to talk about Shaw's great little abortion scene
Let's not
because
talk about that just yet.
oh, so good.
I have to save that
Okay,
because I just want to go back to a scene early on in the film,
let's do it.
which I think sums up everything wrong with this movie.
All right.
So there's there's the scene early on where we see David walking around the ship. Everyone's asleep. He has this device that lets him look into people's minds, which doesn't make any sense and only exists to explain how he communicates with the cryogenically frozen Weyland. That's the only reason that device exists in this film. He wakes everyone up, and then we go into a scene where we explain to the crew why the fuck they went on a 2-year mission. And like everyone goes like, why would anyone agree to this mission without knowing what it was? And I think that's the wrong question. I think that's the wrong thing to take away from this scene. I think this scene just shows how sloppy a lot of the writing is in the movie. Because you could have totally done this scene before they took off.
Mm-hmm.
You could have totally just had the scene where it's like, hey, we gathered some of the best minds here. We're going to pay you like millions to go on this mission. And here's what the mission is. And instead, because Ridley Scott wanted to start this movie out like Alien, where we just show everyone slowly waking up, but also didn't know how to explain the mission in a way where like the characters wouldn't be like, hey, we all know this information. Because that they all would if you just start with them waking up. Because an Alien, like, there's no discussion about like what exactly they're mining out in space in the original Alien, but you're gonna have to have a discussion about what the fuck they're actually doing on the Prometheus ship at some point. So instead of just doing that scene on Earth before they go to space, they did this really awkward merging of those two scenes so they could both copy Alien and also have an original plot, which is where I think a lot of problems from this movie come from, is trying to serve both of those needs.
Yeah, in actuality, it should have just been its own thing.
Yeah.
You could still be a prequel to Alien, but you don't have to tie so hard directly into that. Which
and
I
you
think
don't need to start
eventually, which is why they like, oh, let's not make it the same planet, or let's not make it exactly like this. But then that fucks up the whole flow.
But this is clearly Ridley Scott's attempt to remake Alien. I mean, he's not trying to tell an original story here. Personally, I don't feel that. Because it's just all the same beats from Alien. Just longer.
Yeah.
And more boring.
It's like how Aliens is Alien, but bigger and more action-packed, but bigger and stupider.
Exactly. Somehow we've gotten to the point where Alien 3 is the most original film in the franchise.
I miss Alien 3.
I do too.
Oh yeah, so their mission across the stars to find God, who turns out to be evil.
Yeah.
Also is Jesus. I got
this movie. See, that's the thing. You start like trying to unpack it, and at some point you become totally lost.
Yeah, I was like, oh shit! Like I'm trailing off, and I have it right here.
I mean, because there's nothing. Because it's. I mean, maybe I'll accept. Maybe I'm just a fucking dummy. I don't know anything about what I'm talking about ever. I pretend I know what I'm talking about. I don't know. But personally, I don't understand what's going on in this movie. Nor do I care to understand.
It's got so much potential to be this great idea movie. Like, you know what? If I would buy it in a heartbeat if there was a Prometheus director's cut down the line. Because I I had never thought about it. This is the only Ridley Scott movie that doesn't have a director's cut in I
Yeah.
don't know how long. And then Kingdom of Heaven, that like saved that movie. That's like the top 5 Ridley Scott for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like American Gangster, the director's cut is better in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
I mean, all his director's cuts are great, personally.
But this
But
Prometheus still has this really grand style of filmmaking, and
mhm.
I just love looking at like these broad vistas and like the ship designs are like they're not extraordinary or anything like that, but they come across as like really great, inspiring science fiction for me.
Mhm.
Um, it feels like I'm watching like something that should be way more memorable than it is.
Yeah, it's amazing how great these visuals are and how little of it really does stick with you once you leave the movie.
Yeah. Even when they're like exploring the catacombs as they go along with their mission, they toss those
Mm.
little balls up and they scan the whole area, the
Mm.
tombs, and
The tombs.
yeah, it's exciting stuff. And then like they start talking, you're like, oh shit, you're all idiots.
Yeah.
You don't know what the
Once the
fuck.
the guy who lets out those balls that scan the tomb, he's like, "These are my pups," and then he goes, "Oh," and I'm like, "Go away." Like, why are you here? How did you pass any test to get on this mission? And I know you're just gonna die. I mean, like, one of the great things about Alien, I don't think it can be stated, like, I think people kind of miss this point, but you really don't know who's next in the original Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Because all those characters are well developed enough that you honestly could follow any of them pretty much. Like Ripley totally could have died at some point in Alien, and Yaphet Kotto could have taken over.
Yeah.
Like because he's a developed enough character, but none of these characters are developed enough to the point where even the ones that need to be to where they can carry the film. I mean, you only know who's important by how much screen time they have, and not motivation. I mean, because arguably, Noomi Rapace's like boyfriend, husband. I don't remember if they're actually related. Like they're married.
I don't remember if they're married, but obviously lovers.
Yeah, they fuck at some point. But
Yeah. That
um,
works out well for everyone.
yeah, it's a great thing. Teaches you women to have sex. I guess I don't know. Um, I was thinking like if they're not married, like is it punishing her for having sex out of marriage? Who fucking knows? Um, but uh, like he has more motivation than she does for a lot of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like she has all this stuff with her father, but that gets kind of like that only gets brought up at the beginning and then doesn't get brought up again until later. And for a long time, her uh, lover, I'll just say, is like the guy who's like really gung ho about meeting these aliens, and he's like really excited about it, and he's the one who's like kind of the driving force about going in there, and and every decision he makes you hate him more. Like they're really like, hey, don't do a thing, and he's like, I'm gonna do it, and he does that enough times to the point where like I don't care if he dies, like he's done everything wrong and
Mm-hmm.
deserves it, which is why you don't feel anything when he gets burned to death.
Yeah, it's
And
supposed to
then
be like
like
this really tragic moment, but it's just yeah.
and you're like, yeah, hey, can I watch The Thing when this is over? The Thing was a cool movie. Who brought a flamethrower into space? A flamethrower doesn't seem like a good thing to bring into an all oxygen environment. Um, anyway, uh,
Yeah, because
but and also,
in Alien they maneuver the flamethrower like manually, like they have to create it manually, right?
yeah, and also that's like there's more like it's more of a refinery. Like I could get the flamethrower, but they build it in whatever fucking movies.
Yeah.
I was gonna say though, the one of the worst fucking plot cul-de-sacs of this fucking movie is when the lover boy um, gets all pissy about the fact that the aliens are dead. Where he's like, we came all the way out here and they're dead. And I'm like, motherfucker, you just made the biggest discovery in human history. Everyone on this ship takes this way too well. Like, literally, this would fucking, like, I could totally have understood. A more realistic thing would be the moment they discover an alien, if one of the crew members just pulled out a gun and shot themselves. Because I believe, like, that discovery some people wouldn't be able to handle. Because I think it would be a really monumental thing. And instead he's all like, wah, they're dead. Like, fucking guy, shut up.
It's weird because they're scientists in the movie sense of scientists, but also stupider. Like, they don't act like people who actually want to embark on scientific journeys. They act like fucking movie stars.
They act like a lot of people who read a lot of stuff about science, but don't bother to do any of the actual, like, research. And just, like, that, like, you know when you have, like, a friend who will, like, post something online that, like the moon will be Mars will be the size of the moon next week?
Yeah.
Or some bullshit. And they post it like they think it's real.
Uh-huh.
And that's what all these characters... I mean, there's even a line in this movie where the one guy goes, "Don't be such a skeptic." And I'm like, skepticism is like one of the foundations of science. Like, you're supposed to question shit. That's how you learn things. And another dude says Darwinism in this at one point, which is like, what the fuck is that about? It's just odd. It's very odd.
As the movie progresses, I think there's like a nice little rising tension in the way it's filmed, and it starts getting more intense, but also way more stupid. And I can't help but get a little excited as it goes on because the action starts picking up, people start dropping like flies, but I don't care about any of it happening at the same time. It's just a weird disconnect.
Well, for me,
From the script,
the tension shifts in the movie for me. At least the first time I watched it. Which the first time the tension was all like, oh, shit's gonna happen at any moment. Like, oh, this is ominous. Like, oh, we're going into the cave. And then the tension shifts around the time the one, like, geologist guy starts talking about how much he loves rocks.
no.
And you start going, the tension starts turning into, oh, this is going to get good at some point. I'm sure if I wait around a little longer, this movie's actually going to start being entertaining. I'm sure that's coming. And then it never does.
The part that absolutely threw me off, and I still hate it, is when Wayland turns out to be alive and on aboard the Prometheus. I wish I could understand this decision to have him there and hide him for the majority of the movie.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I don't know why they did it. You know where the fucking movie loses me?
The beginning?
No, two scenes. One, which might be one of a movie where we were talking about how great the visuals are, this might be the worst scene visually, which is when they start, like, trying to reactivate the nervous system in the head they found, and the head starts twitching. That felt like it was out of a fucking asylum movie. It looked so awful and was so dumb. Like, why'd they do that? What was that about? It's just, and it looks so bad. It's such a bad effect. It's like, cut that scene. You didn't need it. But the one big scene that loses me, but I'll let you take over, is the weird alien abortion scene in the movie, which is when the movie completely lost me.
I think if there were any ideas that were driving the narrative, they're gone by this point. But I think this is where the thrills actually kick in, and I'm still not on board with the movie, but I'm like, okay, at least I'm into this different part of it now. Make of that what you will. I at the end of the day, I think I do like kind of Prometheus, but it's like with an asterisk, a bunch of them.
Mm.
And this scene is a good example why, because it's nonsensical, it's fucking intense as hell, and
Mm.
it's really gross. Like it's painful to watch. Like I was like squirming in my seat when I was rewatching it.
Mm.
Like I just feel that little when she gets cut open, and that whatever alien, it's like it sits still for a moment and then it like bursts open and then splatters on her, and oh, it's so gross. It's just, I love it. It's disgusting. It's repulsive, and I could watch it forever, and I will never eat while watching that scene.
Okay, so this is where I got to bring in some very personal biases. Um, I had a horrible disease at one point that resulted in I had to get my colon removed via
Ouch.
surgery. Um, so I got cut pretty much in the exact same spot she got cut in this movie, and I still have the scars to prove it.
Damn.
Yeah, and here's some things. Watching that scene infuriated me because I don't care what sort of space, like future medicine you have, maybe they have something that could numb that amount of pain. I have never felt pain like that before in my it I can't, there's nothing even close in my life that felt that painful. Waking up after surgery, having that cut, having happened. It is the amount of pain is so unbelievable. It's like you're flop sweating constantly from the pain. And I couldn't sleep for like 24 hours because I was in so much pain. And mind you, I had an epidural, which was going straight into my spine of just drugs that were trying to like, that would, so I had drugs in me that were supposed to be, quelling the pain, and it was still the most painful thing I've ever felt.
Oof.
And when you cut yourself there, on that part of your body, you cut through muscle that will take some time to heal. You will not be able to move your legs for a couple days after doing that. I couldn't lift my leg up off of the bed I was in for about a day. So when that scene happened, I had all those fun memories come flooding back. And she immediately gets up and starts running around afterwards. Now, I'll be the first to admit that's definitely not fair to the movie. Like, I'm bringing a very personal experience to this. But that was the moment when the movie completely lost me, and I realized that there was nothing else, and there was nothing keeping me holding on to the movie, other than a vague promise that it might get good, which it didn't.
Mm.
So, like, honestly, I could turn the movie off by that point and not need to watch any more of it. I don't think anything. I think after David finds the room with the sleeping, excuse me, with the sleeping albino engineers, I think I'm done with the movie by that point because there's nothing else the movie really has to show me that I want to see.
I completely get that because, like I said, there's no ideas driving the movie by that point. It's just it becomes
It just becomes a monster movie,
yeah, it comes up to be
and not a
monster.
good one, and not a good one.
Uh, no, I don't think so. Yeah, but I think in a vacuum there are moments again like the C-section that just fucking sing for me.
If you want a good example of a B monster movie, there's a movie that partly inspired Alien called It, the Terror from Beyond Space. And it's about this crew that goes to Mars to find another crew that landed on Mars, and that entire crew is dead except for one guy. And he claims a monster killed him, but no one believes him. And this monster gets on board their spaceship when it leaves for Earth. And the whole movie is literally just that monster climbing from floor to floor, killing people. And they have to try and like find a way to stop it before it gets to the top of the ship. That's the whole damn movie.
Dang.
That's a great B monster movie. This is not. It's just boring.
Well, okay, I want to wrap up on the I guess the plot of
Mm,
Prometheus then. When Wayland comes out, and you mentioned Charlize Theron was your favorite part of the movie.
mhm.
Um, there's that theory about her being an android herself, or if she's actually his daughter.
Which
What's your
also,
take on that?
well, here's one thing. First of all, that's an example of good ambiguity in a film.
Yes.
That's an example of what like we should have been leaving this movie going, man, maybe she was an android. Like, holy shit, that could have changed everything. And like talk about it where like we don't really need the answer, but it's a really interesting question. And instead we left the movie going, what the fuck was the deal with the opening? And but here's the thing, thanks to good old Ridley Scott, he basically came out and said, no, she's not an android. So there you go. So the one interesting thing this movie had going for it that it's gone. So
Well, fuck. I mean, that's it's kind of the deal breaker for you then, huh?
yes, a very big deal breaker.
Yeah, I mean, okay. The rest of the movie is just people dropping off like flies. The moment, again in a vacuum, when Shaw is out on the planet surfing, she calls Idris Elba's character and she says like, if you don't stop that ship, we won't have a home to get back to. Like, it's just really great hero moment that they have to sacrifice themselves for,
Yeah.
but like it doesn't fucking mean anything.
What if I felt anything for those crew members?
Yeah, you know,
Like
like
literally, you know what happens in this movie? It
everyone
pulls
dies.
no, it pulls a Revenge of the Sith, which is there's a part in Revenge of the Sith where the plot of the movie just drops away and the entire film just becomes about wrapping everything up, just so everything fits with the original trilogy. And that's what happens in this movie, where everything that happens is just to wrap everything up, so there's no questions about any connection to the Alien franchise.
Yeah, although the Revenge of the Sith is a whole other conversation that we will
Yeah, no,
never
I'm
have
not trying
today.
to say it's totally equal,
Mhm.
but I'm saying that the third acts of both movies serve very similar purposes.
Yeah, they're not servicing the movie at hand, and oh, you fucking
Mm.
feel it.
And one could argue nothing in the prequels is serving the story at hand, but that's a whole other thing.
um,
Um,
the the ridiculous visual of Shaw carrying Michael Fassbender's severed head, and it's just casually talking to her,
mm,
is so B movie that it's literally out of Jason X.
yeah.
No
Oh
one
yeah,
talks
it did
about
happen
that.
in Jason X. Oh fuck.
Yeah.
Oh fuck me. Oh no. Oh
Oh
no.
yeah.
Also, my only problem with that movie is how come he can talk, but then the later model in fucking Alien, they had to like rewire just to get his head talking.
Oh yeah. I got no idea. Well, I mean,
None of this makes sense.
no. And then the confrontation with him and the engineer. The engineer just starts killing everyone, right? And
Yeah.
like, what? Why? I want to know why. I'm not even like angry. I just want to understand the purpose here,
Mm,
because I think there
yeah.
was a purpose initially, and maybe something got lost in translation,
Why? I
like
mean,
in production, not literal translation.
I like my idea because it's my idea.
Okay.
That it's about what if you meet God and he hates you and he's evil.
Okay.
And I think he's just pissed that, lower life forms that they should have exterminated managed to find him. Um,
See, I like that.
I read somewhere that the reason he's angry is because he's infected and he needed to be in cryosleep so he wouldn't die. But that doesn't make sense because he gets impregnated by the other alien. So I don't know. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's. I just want to understand. it's tiring to talk about.
Yeah, it's
And
exhausting.
I didn't expect this to be my reaction while talking about it, or when I rewatched it.
And the thing is,
And
I think the thing in both of our voices, we both desperately want to like this movie,
I want to
and
so much.
we want it all to make sense. And if someone out there can make all of this movie work, I'm totally cool with that. Don't send a smug tweet to me saying you just didn't get it. Fuck you. Explain this shit. I want to love this movie, and I just can't. There's nothing in it that makes me want to like it.
Yeah. I like the counselor a lot.
Mm.
I'm the guy.
Yeah,
But
and the fact that I'm even open to the counselor shows that I can be open to this fucking movie.
yeah.
I mean, but
All right. So in the end, Shaw and Severed Head go off to find their creators.
they go off to a sequel that they decided not to make.
Yeah. Like, what would that even have entailed if it wasn't like a straight up alien movie? You know, like
Well,
that could have been fucking weird.
well, I heard they were. It was this. I at one point I heard it was going to be called Paradise, and it was basically going to be Paradise Lost in Space.
Which makes sense because this is at the Mountains of Madness at space. So Ridley Scott would just take other books, like
Yeah,
really idea driven books, and make them into the Alien franchise.
which not terrible. Also, this movie, trying to like having a little bit of the at the Mountains of Madness feel to it. It also is much less interesting than at the Mountains of Madness, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they leave, and then the end. It's just the same ending as Alien. And then you go, hey, I remember when they did that in Alien. Let's keep
Uh,
remaking it.
well, the alien bursts out of the engineer's chest, which is doesn't matter to the movie. And it's
Yep.
not even like the official alien. It's something called like the Deacon in post production, right? Which is like
Yeah.
again doesn't mean anything.
Here's the thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
None of what happens in this movie matters. It probably won't be connected to Alien Covenant unless they find some really convoluted way to do that, which they could. I honestly think there's a couple of ways they could, but
Hmm.
you know what I'm thinking is,
Say it.
all right, here's what I think there's going to be a twist in Alien Covenant. This is a stretch, but this is what I think is going to happen.
Okay. You know what? Let's devote this section to theories now, because that's always fun.
My theory that is like there's a 99% chance this won't happen.
Go for it.
All right, I think we're going to be introduced to these human characters, and there's going to be very little discussion about where they're from and what they're doing on this planet, other than trying to make a place for themselves or some shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we're going to watch the basic plot of Alien play out again, and then at the end of the movie, it's going to be revealed that these people aren't from Earth. They're from another planet that went through the same treatment as Earth, where life was created on it, and it just happened to create life forms that look exactly like human beings. And it'll be like a twist. You follow what I'm saying?
I do, but I am pretty sure that's not the case, because in the trailer, if I could just burst your optimism bubble,
Mm.
uh, Damien,
They mention Earth?
yeah, Damien Bachir mentions Earth.
Okay.
Like, what are the chances of finding human vegetation this far from Earth? So
Maybe, but hey, that could be a fake out.
maybe.
Literally, honestly, I didn't think. I was trying to think that, like, what would be the craziest way to take this? And that was what I thought.
Yeah,
Because that's honestly an interesting existential question.
there
Like,
are
what if
other
there's
humans.
other humans out there?
Yeah.
So, which this movie implies, honestly, because when David's looking at the map room, it shows like all these different planets that they had operations on.
Yeah.
So, maybe what if all those planets generate the same type of life?
Oh, that'd be cool.
So yeah, I'm just saying that could have been an interesting direction to take it. But I have a feeling that Alien Covenant won't be about taking interesting directions.
You just think it's going to be Alien again?
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't know.
And make less sense and be more boring. And we're all gonna walk out of it and go like, Danny McBride should have had a bigger part.
Oh, don't say that. No. Because my hope is that he's like the co-lead. Because he's in a lot of the footage.
I think he's gonna. I honestly think he'll last because I only watched like the first preview. I stopped because I just didn't want to get spoiled. Because once I realized that they were doing Alien again, I realized it was going to be very easily to get spoiled. But he's like the pilot of the ship, so I'm guessing he's going to have to last pretty long.
Yeah.
Or die first, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Him and Catherine Waterston, I think, are like the main leads, along with Michael Fassbender.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if you don't, the second trailer's really good. The first one's like a cool little teaser. I mean, it's not great. It's just cool because I like Alien, but the second one's real good. But it does show not plot stuff, but maybe some stuff visually. With I mean,
well, enough of you idiots posted GIFs of it.
Okay, well, yeah.
So I saw those, and I also basically saw the ending of the movie. So.
Oh wait, what do you think the ending is?
I don't want to say. I don't want to ruin it.
No, say it. Say it to me.
All right, I think we're gonna get a scene where they're taking off. This is just based on the trailer. But for all I know, this could happen in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're gonna get a scene where one of the ships is taking off, and we're gonna get that airlock scene again, which happens in every movie, right?
Yeah.
But this time, it's gonna hold on and climb to the front of the ship and start attacking the front, and the ship's gonna crash.
And then nothing matters in this movie too.
Yeah. Because they shouldn't show this because they showed the ship crashing in Prometheus, the Prometheus trailers, and they also show a ship crashing in the Alien Covenant trailers. So, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Stop doing that. Stop it.
Yeah, the only theory I have is that if it turns out that Catherine Waterston's character is Ripley's mom, I'm going to leave the theater.
Yeah, that will be terrible.
I will fucking abhor that.
Mm.
Other than that, you know what? I don't. Not that this is okay.
Mm.
I don't need another big idea movie. Give me a solid space horror movie, and I will be content. You should do more because this is a weird franchise that clearly, as we look back on this retrospective, has gone to some really weird places and some really stupid places.
Yeah.
But you could do so much with this.
Well,
and they seem to be reductive in their approach.
I'm convinced more than ever, having done this, that it's time for the Alien franchise to end. I think it's time to put it to bed, at least for like 10 years or longer. Just let it go away for a little bit. Because honestly, Alien Resurrection and Prometheus were chances, the last two chances the franchise had to really go in interesting directions. And they didn't work. I mean, say what you will about either movie, but they clearly didn't work from a studio perspective because they aren't making a sequel. They never made a sequel to Alien Resurrection. And
came close, though.
I know they came close, but they never did. Because clearly someone was gun shy based on how Alien Resurrection went.
Mm-hmm.
And they decided, fuck, Alien versus Predator will just be profitable. And Prometheus, we're just getting this Alien Covenant, which is clearly just trying to recapture the magic of the original. It's not trying to be anything different. It's trying to be the original.
Yeah.
Which I get what you're saying with just give me a solid, retro type film. I mean, because we've had a lot of those lately, where they're not reboots. They're not remakes. They're more just soft reboots. But I don't think there's. And the thing is, Alien when it hit, it was so big that everyone started ripping it off for like every year until now. I mean, there was an Alien ripoff this year.
Oh yeah.
Life.
Did you watch that?
I saw part of it.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible.
I mean, My problem was that the trailers gave away what the fuck was happening in it, but
Oh yeah, that too. But it's real bad.
interesting setup, bad execution.
Yeah.
But again, like, but see, it's an Alien ripoff, and we've had 100 of those. So even doing a throwback, Alien movie, it doesn't just have to escape the shadow of Alien, it has to escape the shadow of all these other imitators. And I don't think it can do that. I'm not trying to be like really pessimistic here, but I haven't seen anything out of that movie that makes me go like, oh, all right, this is where it'll work.
No, and I totally get that because it comes down to like look at what Ridley Scott has done throughout his career, whether or not his movies have always been hit or misses. I'm just curious as to why he decided to settle down and just do Alien movies like James Cameron's doing Avatar movies now.
You know what I honestly think it is?
He misses the glory days.
I think it's a mixture of that, but he likes making movies in space. And I think the only way a studio will let him make a movie set in space is if it's an Alien film. I mean, that's what they want out of him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of like it'd be like trying to get George Lucas to do another Star Wars movie before the prequels. Like you want him to do it, and that's what they want to get out of him. So if he comes to you and be like, "Hey, I have this idea for a movie set in space about like genetic engineering or something," they're like, "Hey, could you make it an Alien film?" I mean, I honestly feel like that's what I feel like he gets a lot of meetings like that. And as you point out, he works very well with studios, so he probably just goes like, "Yeah, I'll do that." So I think he comes with other ideas and just makes them fit an Alien mold. And I feel like that's what's happening with both Prometheus and Alien Covenant.
Yeah. I'm more optimistic for Alien Covenant still because I've liked the last couple of Ridley Scott movies that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And this time the writer is John Logan, who wrote some not great movies like Star Trek Nemesis, Last Samurai, Bats, but he also wrote Gladiator, Rango, Hugo, Skyfall. Did I say The Aviator already?
Yeah, no, you didn't, but there you go.
Yeah, Aviator, Sweeney Todd, and Spectre, which is not a great screenplay, but there's a whole other issues with that.
I could talk about how Spectre might be the best Daniel Craig Bond, but that's a whole other thing.
Oh, I would love that because I don't think that.
I love that movie so much. But John Logan, I think John Logan's a great screenwriter, honestly. Even when he makes bad movies, they're usually at least structured fairly well. And usually the problems with them, like the one Star Trek he did, the problems in it weren't him.
Mm-hmm.
That was other unrelated things. So it's but I don't know, man. I just feel like I don't want to see another Alien. I just feel like, and also the worry is if this is successful, then they're going to want another one and another one.
Well, aren't they gonna already have like 2 sequels? Not in the bag, obviously, but like in the writing stages already.
Well, Ridley
like
Scott says Ridley Scott's saying he's already working on another one.
Yeah,
which is called like Alien Awakening right now.
And it's supposed to take place in between Prometheus and Covenant. Or I think that might have been a misquote. He might have just like spoken like oddly, but if that's the case, that's fucking weird and makes me uncomfortable.
But also at the same time, it really doesn't matter because Alien Covenant was being talked about as a direct sequel to Prometheus when we first heard about it.
Yeah.
And now it's not, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I mean, and then it was Paradise Lost, and then it became Alien Paradise Lost, and these movies have a weird evolution, almost like the Xenomorph itself. Haha.
And much like the Xenomorph, a lot of it is rehashed at some point. It's all very similar at some point. They stopped getting creative after one.
To an extent, yeah. I want to talk more about Alien Covenant, but really we can't really talk this until we watch the movie.
Yeah.
So let's just wind down our thoughts on Prometheus. Matt, would you recommend Prometheus to anybody?
You know what, I would. I mean, I think it's worth watching. And depending on who you are, because I mean, movies are subjective. You could easily forgive a lot of problems I have with it and enjoy it, and we'll just have to be two different people.
Yeah,
So
I too would recommend it, but not in the same way I'd recommend Alien Resurrection, because that's just atrocious. And like
mhm.
that's a history lesson on what not to do. Prometheus is like, well, you might actually see things differently than I do. It's like a Rorschach test for the Alien franchise. Like, what do you see here? You know?
It's more just what you're looking for in a movie. Some
Yeah.
people, I mean, I'm looking for certain things out of my science fiction and horror, and I didn't get either. But some people are looking for different things, and you could easily get them in Prometheus.
Mhm. Yeah. So
So,
that's it for the Alien retrospective. It took us like a year. How'd you
yeah,
feel?
Ridley Scott filmed an Alien film in between us starting it.
And then
So,
another one got canceled.
yep, hey, yeah, because we were talking about that Alien 5, I think, really early on.
Yeah, now there's nothing really to say about it. It's just not going to happen.
And thank God someone realized Neil Blomkamp isn't as good as everyone thought he was.
uh,
That will happen though. They're gonna try and get Sigourney Weaver in one of these movies at some point.
I fully believe
Um,
that, especially with like de-aging technology
yeah, which Ridley
nowadays.
Scott brought up.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, I'd fucking hate
although,
that too.
yeah, it's gonna be. I'm very nervous about that because a lot of directors are talking about using it,
Yeah.
including Martin Scorsese.
Oh fuck.
Um, his epic, The Irishman, is supposedly going to use it.
Oh no.
But the thing is, Scorsese made 3D work,
Yeah,
which
that's
like
true.
90% of directors didn't. So maybe I don't know. Um, we'll have to wait and see. I don't trust Ridley Scott to do it, but um, yeah. And this was fun revisiting these films. It's good to know that it's good to remember that Alien 3 is actually really great, and that you should only watch the first three Alien movies.
We got to do Predator next. Before that
Um,
whole thing.
yeah, oh yeah. Well, we can definitely do Predator, and then we can talk about the AVP films.
Fuck. I
But
don't know, man.
and we got to do it because there's a new Predator coming out like next year.
Yeah.
Directed by fucking Shane Black, who is in Predator.
It's like the full
Um,
circle.
yeah, and I have to praise Predators, which is I think everyone slept on Predators. So
I
that's
will
a
hold my feelings on that movie until we get to that episode.
okay.
Okay. Matt,
There's a little sneak preview.
where can the people find you?
You find me at EmperorOTN at twitter.com or at Gringo Fuck Yourself on SoundCloud. There will be no new episodes.
You can find me on Twitter at Diego Waffles, President Diego for the moment. Probably going to keep that for a while. All links to everything I do over there. Like and subscribe if you like this video. If you didn't like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to this entire retrospective series. Matt, thank you for joining me for this 5 episodes of nonsense and monstrosities. We have been professionally unprofessional.